and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. This is what's coming up on the program. Edo State Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu, under pressure from the state lawmakers, receives notice of impeachment. The Assembly awaits his response. National security remains in the front burner as the National Assembly leadership set to meet President Bola Tinubu over country's security challenges. And Court of Appeal makes pronouncements stopping the rearrangement of Senator Orji Kalu over allegations of fraud. Thanks again for joining us on the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's begin the program by the concerns raised by federal lawmakers over the worrying insecurity still bedeviling the country, as its leadership has now resolved to meet with the president to find lasting solution. The resolution follows a motion of urgent importance raised by Senator Emmanuel Udende in the killing of over 50 persons in fresh attacks in no less than 5 communities in Kwande, Ukum, Logo, and Katsina-Ala local government areas of Benue State. The lawmakers also urge the service chiefs and heads of security agencies to, among other things, urgently deploy security personnel to address the attacks in the communities, as our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Omezueke reports.
First reading taken.
For these senators on the second day of plenary for the week, the worsening food crisis is not the only challenge desirous of urgent intervention, but the unabating insecurity.
The Senate aware.
In a motion of urgent importance, the killing of over 50 persons in at least 5 communities in Benue State is brought before the House.
The situation and development has inflicted untold hardship on women, children, and elderly who are trekking long distances in search of safe haven.
Humongous amount of money have been allocated. We have not done our constitutional oversight responsibility to ensure that that money is judiciously utilized.
You get the same answer. Nothing being done. Why do we have to continue to do the same thing? It's a question for the Senate.
We should insist on getting improvements, and of course, constitutional review is coming. I don't know what we can do better, but the security architecture in Nigeria today has failed woefully. And we have said this many times, even in the previous assemblies, that this thing is not working.
What we concluded now is most important, to get a team from the Senate and the House of Rep to get audience with the President in the presence of the service chiefs so that we take a decision that will yield result.
Many proffered solutions before the lawmakers adopted some resolutions to prevent further attacks.
Those who are in support of this say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes are.
The bill for an act to amend the National Assembly Library Trust Fund to alter the name to National Assembly Library and Resource Center scaled third reading after an exhaustive consideration.
Change the name to National Assembly Library and Resource Center, streamline the functions of the Governing Council and the Office of the Director General to set up the National Assembly Museum and for Related Matters 2024. Third reading taken.
Now, after the consideration of the report on ethics, code of conduct and public petitions, the Senate also directed the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Abuja to reinstate Mr. Igwe Cyprian as a bona fide student after an alleged wrongful rustication and thereafter a written apology. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Moving on now, former governor of Abia State, Senator Orji Kalu, may have just heaved a sigh of relief after the Court of Appeal in Abuja struck out the bid by the federal government to commence fresh prosecution in the 7.6 billion naira fraud and money laundering case preferred against him. Delivering judgment, Justice Joseph Oyewole held that the record of appeal brought by the federal government was incompetent and unreliable for any court to use to grant the request of the government because it was not, in their words, compiled, signed, and certified by any person known to law. A federal high court on December the 5th, 2019, jailed the former governor, now a senator representing Abia North, for 12 years for stealing the huge sum from the treasury of Abia State government while he was governor of the state. The judgment of the High Court was, however, voided and set aside by the Supreme Court on the ground that Justice Mohammed Idris, who delivered that judgment, was already a justice of the Court of Appeal, having been elevated. And staying with the courts, the president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dangbam-Mensem, has thrown out a petition filed by the All Progressives Congress governorship candidate in Bayelsa State, Mr. Timipre Silva. The APC candidate had written a petition requesting the president of the appellate court to disband and reconstitute the Bayelsa State Election Petition Tribunal in Abuja, alleging bias and unfair hearing against the chairman, Justice Adekunle Adeleye, and the two other panel members. Mr. Silva, who is challenging the victory of Governor Doye Diri of the People's Democratic Party in the November 11, 2023 governorship poll, claimed the tribunal did not give him enough time after calling 52 witnesses and closing his case last week, Wednesday. Justice Adeleye had to adjourn the tribunal sitting indefinitely on Monday, that's March the 4th, in order for the appeal court president to decide on the petition. But a hearing notice dated March the 6th, 2024 indicated that the petition failed and that the tribunal had been directed to continue the matter under the same panel. Let's now talk cold politics away from the judiciary. Edo politics comes with intriguing progression ahead of the governorship election in September, and the latest is the impeachment notice being served on the Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu by the State Assembly. The majority leader of the Assembly, a member representing Ovia Northeast 1 Charity, Aigbo Brogian, announced notice during a plenary stating that the petition, which dated March the 5th, 2024, was endorsed by 21 out of the 24 members. The majority leader maintained that the number of lawmakers that signed met the required two-thirds as stipulated in the Constitution. He noted that the petition was based on allegations of perjury and divulging Edo State government secrets.
We have a petition brought pursuant to section 188, sub 1, 2A of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, the said petition is for an impeachment notice on the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Right Honorable Philip Shaibu. The said petition, sir, is sent by 21 members of the Edo State Assembly, which is by far above the one-third requirement as stipulated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic.
I hereby acknowledge the receipt of the impeachment notice dated 5th of March 2024. Clerk is hereby mandated to cause the service of this notice to the respondent, Deputy Governor of Edo State, Right Honorable Philip Shaibu, promptly, and he has 7 days to respond to this petition.
Well, Edo politics has had its own intrigue since INEC released that schedule of activities, and we've seen drama from across all the political parties. As a matter of fact, the political parties that are considered leading political parties in the state have not been able to, at some point, were not able to produce one candidate. It's always on some kind of contention, and now they are trying to mend fences. But that of the People's Democratic Party, which is the ruling party in the state, seemed to be festering. And as you saw in that particular story, the notice of impeachment has been served on the deputy governor. And what happened? There was a primary, and then he alleged that some people within his camp were not allowed into the primary venue, and then organized his own primaries in his residence. He emerged winner as against the one organized at the stadium that threw up Aswe Godala as a candidate of the party. And then things evolved from there, where he headed out to the national headquarters of his party to say, look, I am the right and authentic candidate of this party. Give me the certificate of return, not for Aswe. And then things have evolved over time. And this is the latest development as far as this whole crisis within that party is concerned. And they are alleging that it's two things, basically, perjury and divulging of Edo State government secret. So that is what we want to focus on. We're being joined on the program by a convener of the Advocate of Good Governance via Zoom, all the way from Benin City, Mr. Dennis Osariton. Mr. Osariton, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon.
The natural question is, we are seeing what's going on. Is Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu overbearing as is perceived by some quarters, or is just simply misunderstood?
Well, I would like to say that maybe from his own perspective, maybe misunderstood, but from the opinion of the generality of those of us that live and work here in Edo State, we think is really largely overbearing. Probably it may need some time for some of us to educate him on the duties and responsibility of a deputy governor. It appears to have forgotten so soon what that role entails. And that, peradventure would suggest to us that he has become very overbearing. And the House of Assembly, has been called over time to step into the matter, to call it to order, because the duty of the House of Assembly is to keep the executive in check. So if one of the officers that is supposed to man the executive arm is becoming overbearing, it behoves on the House of Assembly to call him to check. That's what has happened thus far.
But it's constantly made the case, and because sometimes in politics, things don't just happen. Before we go to the nitty-gritty, because this is just the first of a series of protests, a series of process, according to Section 188 of the Constitution, that clearly spells out how impeachment processes are carried out. But just before the primaries, there has been this feeler of back and forth between him and the governor. And one of the fights is the fact that people feel that he's fought so hard, even going against Adams Oshomole, who is regarded as his father in politics, or his senior brother, as he calls it, or his father. And then he's fought so hard to make sure that, maybe he has a seat on the table. Why do you think that at some point it felt like for him, nobody's listening to what he's saying, so he had to take laws in his hands, allegedly?
Yeah, for me, just putting it mildly, some of us, we've always, voiced our opinion that the deputy governor is becoming, behaving like a spoiled child. He was not the only person who fought so hard to secure the mandate for the PDP in those states. The governor himself, he led the charge. He was like the 5-star general. He led the charge to ensure that they secure the mandate of the people. The deputy governor, just like every other person in the political process, was involved in that process that culminated into the shifts or the power grab or the sustainability of the PDP in those states. So he is not the only person who participated in that process. Every other person who took part in that process, they've not been seen, they've not been found wanting. How come he's the only person that appears to be crying more than the bereaved? So for me, the deputy governor clearly is a case of ambition taken too far. It appears that if he does not have his way, then he must bring down the roof.
Well, I want us to be very civil with our words. As a deputy governor, you can't use words like a small child. Yeah. You can't use. So I would like you to withdraw that word, please. You can't say.
I only use the figurative expression. I didn't say it was a small child. It's behaving like a small child.
Just yes, please. But you understand what I'm saying. This is a deputy governor. You can't disparage his personality in spite of whatever it is that.
No, I didn't.
Absolutely. All right. So let's see how this. In your view, is the House acting on their own, or there is an executive push behind all of this? What do you see?
The House of Assembly in Edo State is an arm of government, an independent arm of government, and they have the constitutional responsibility to keep the executive in check. So the House of Assembly, thus far, have shown to all that they are very independent arm, and they have taken it upon themselves to take the bull by the horn. So if the majority leader of the House of Assembly acting on the petition brought, culminated in this motion, the House of Assembly has a duty to keep the executive in check. That is exactly what they have done in line with the provision of the Constitution. Nothing more pretentious.
So how do you see things playing out with this whole, drama that is going on between, it's like a tripod. There's the deputy governor on one hand, there's the governor on one hand. At some point they had issue. Now the House of Assembly is involved. What do you see playing out at the end of this?
What I see predominantly is the deputy governor running against the tide. He appears to be the only one that is fighting against the other arms of government. Mind you, in our recent history, he took the judiciary to court, took the state government to court, took the House of Assembly to court. So he appears to be the only person that is acting as a clog in the wheel of progress. So if the House of Assembly have now taken the bull by the horn by initiating this impeachment process, and we must be patient enough to allow them to see the process through. They have sent him an invitation, and in line with the principles of fair hearing and the natural justice, it behoves on him now to go to the House of Assembly and defend himself. At this point, there are mere allegations. So the investigation of the committee, the deputy governor will be given a chance to come and state his own side of the story. And if at the end of the day he's unable to defend himself, he's unable to justify some of these shenanigans, I think the House of Assembly knows what to do at the end of the day.
So for me, I want to find out, because it's difficult to understand why the deputy governor will act the way he does. On one hand, you could contemplate, okay, maybe the governorship seat is not going to come to him. Are you sure that maybe from what you know as feelers, anything is being promised him, because it's a game of interest at the end of the day when it comes to politics? Or he was just left hanging, so he decided to, go the way he had to go?
No, for me, what has been the major plank of this crisis is the over-ambition of a deputy governor. There's no way it is stated any.
When you say, Mr. Saraton, when you say without holding brief for the deputy governor, what exactly does over-ambition mean?
For me, you have a tenure that is still running, that has not ended. So where is there any law, is there any agreement, whether written or oral, that deputy governor must succeed the governor as a substantive governor? There's nowhere it is written in any law. So, and we have said time and again that just like every other person, you have a right to your ambition. But in pursuing that ambition, you cannot bring down the roof. You cannot, become a clog in the wheel of progress, and you begin to hamper, the aim at driving at, good governance in the state. We have always said that from the very beginning. So the deputy governor clearly was pushing this ambition thing, and he knew right from the very beginning that the majority of the party members are not keen into his appeal to pity, and that is why he has now, developed this, this scheme of causing disaffection among the party membership and causing tension in the state. We have said that time and again that the deputy governor should be advised that should focus more on good governance and finishing well, rather than causing commotion and political tension in the state. We have always admonished him right from the very beginning. So now that the Assembly has now stepped in now, it behoves on us to encourage the House of Assembly to quickly set up that committee, investigate the allegations against him. The deputy governor should be given a chance to come and state his side of the story. So at the end of the day, the House, who are our representatives, they are in a position to interject, look at all the issues objectively, and if the deputy governor is found to have committed gross misconduct, so be it. Heavens will not fall, because the law is quite clear as to the processes that will lead to that conclusion. And that process I just commenced yesterday. I think we should allow that process to run its course, and then wait and believe very strongly that the Assembly knows what to do in the appropriate time.
All right, Mr. Senator. So one will wonder, if this is not such a big deal for the party, why couldn't the government just, this September is not too far from here, the elections will come, and then, a new government will come in. Why couldn't they allow him just serve his time and just bear whatever it is he's dealing with him as much as possible? Just trying to look at all sides in this conversation.
I've told you that the process right now is clearly in the ball of the House of Assembly. The House of Assembly is an independent arm of government. It's not being managed or manipulated by the governor. The House of Assembly is an independent arm, and they have a duty under our Constitution to act as a check. So whatever they are doing now is within the remit of the House of Assembly as established by law. So we must allow the House of Assembly being an independent, and because we operate a system of checks and balances, separation of power. So we cannot begin to say it's too early or it's too late. They know whatever the Assembly decide to do now, they are doing it in line with the provisions of the law, and we must allow them as Democrats to do that which the law requires them to do. So it's never too late in time.
All right, Mr. Sarauta, just to wrap up the conversation, do you see this affecting the PDP's chances in any way or shape in the coming elections?
Apart from me, the deputy governor is an individual and is a party member just like every other person. He's just an individual. He has one vote, so he's not the party in the state. So whatever he's doing now is even going to enhance the chances of the PDP the next election, because it clearly shows that the PDP has the mechanism of dealing with erring members. So if the House of Assembly that is dominated by PDP is calling the deputy governor of a state to order, it clearly shows that the party have shown some level of discipline and maturity, and they're able to manage their affair in line with the rule of law. And that should be encouraged. All
right, Mr. Sarauta, sometimes it's quite funny how politicians look at these things. I don't know whether you're one, whether you're, but sometimes.
I'm just an advocate for good governance. I'm not
yes, you know, the reason I hold on, just a minute.
What we see here on the streets in the Benin City.
All right, the reason I say that sometimes when it's wartime, everybody is relevant and they can pull their muscle. But when things like this happen, at the end of the day, we begin to see that it's okay, it's just a one-man, one-vote situation. But hey, it is what the politics is really all about. But it's a development, as you said, just an impeachment notice has been served. It's a long process of about 8 processes according to 188 of the Constitution. Let's see how this plays out eventually. But wish the people of Edo State the best out of all of this. We must thank you so much, the convener of Advocate of Good Governance, Ms. Barrister Dennis Osarita. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having us.
Now to other stories. Now, the recent and embarrassing conflicting judgments in the judiciary has become a major source of concern, and the body of benches has now constituted a committee to probe the development and restore public confidence in the country's third arm of government. The chairman of the body of benches, retired Justice Mary Odili, gave the announcement during this year's call to bar ceremony.
1,600 young lawyers, all standing to welcome members of the Nigerian Bar of Benches who file into the Ade Balogun Auditorium for the second day of the call to bar ceremony for the successful candidates of the 2023 bar final examination. Friends and family members listen eagerly as the Director General of the Nigerian Law School affirms and presents the aspirants who are waiting to be called to bar to the body of benchers.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the body of benchers, I'll be presenting to this call to the bar ceremony a total of 4,412 candidates who are successful at the November 23 bar final examination, as well as 14 candidates from previous call.
These successful candidates are officially called to bar by the chairman body of benchers.
You may now put on your wigs. Learned friends, you may take your seats.
The chairman of the body of benchers offers some advice for the new lawyers while calling for improved remuneration for legal practitioners. She, however, has concerns for certain developments in the nation's judiciary.
The judiciary is being bashed, and public confidence in the legal system is dwindling, occasioned by incessant conflicting judgments by our courts and flagrant indiscipline amongst lawyers. In order to address the vexed issue of conflicting judgments, the body of benchers has constituted a committee made up of ranking members of the profession to come up with the best possible ways of addressing the concerns.
Some of the dignitaries that attended the ceremony also have advice for the young lawyers.
I call on them to seriously adhere to their training and their responsibility of ensuring that they maintain discipline in the bar and bench.
A total of 5,300 candidates sat for the November 2023 bar final examination. 4,412 passed the exam, besides the 14 candidates who joined from the previous bar final examination. while 888 candidates were unsuccessful.
Let's also bring you the latest development coming from Oyo State, part of the Oyo State capital. The legal proceedings against those suspected to be involved in the January the 16th explosion at Bodija in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, has commenced. The Federal High Court in Ibadan has ordered that a woman and 2 men be remanded in prison for their roles in the January 16th explosion. The presiding judge, Justice Ekerete Akpan of the Federal High Court, Ibadan, ordered that the 3 accused persons, a female and 2 males, be remanded in Agodi Correctional Center after hearing their pleas. They pleaded not guilty to the charges brought against them. The police had charged a woman, Ramatu Kamara, Ganiyu Malik, and Abubakar Samasa, with conspiracy, use of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, stockpiling of radioactive materials, and dispersal of biological weapons. And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. You've been served on Lunchtime.